What's up everybody, my name is Ethan, and today I wanted to discuss the cost of living in Seoul. More specifically, I wanted to discuss the cost of living in Seoul as a student. So, Seoul is obviously the biggest city in South Korea, and if you're not going to be living in Seoul and are instead thinking of moving to Busan or Daegu to study, then you can expect to have cheaper overall costs. So this video is just for Seoul, and please keep that in mind. So I want to order the costs from highest to lowest. So I'll be starting with things like tuition and then working my way down to things like entertainment. I hope to cover all of the major costs as well as the smaller costs that you may incur on a daily basis or weekly basis. So if you have any questions about anything in this video or even just living in Korea in general, please feel free to ask me and I'll try my best to answer as accurately as I can. So the biggest cost that you can expect to face in Korea while studying is obviously tuition. The tuition can vary quite a lot depending on what you study and where you study. However, normally it is about 1 million won, so about $1,000, up to 4 million won, about $4,000 per semester. The 4 million won costs will normally come if you're studying something like medicine at a prestigious university. The cheaper costs will come with other majors and at lesser known universities. So for me, I study at Korea University, which is obviously one of the three famous Sky universities. There, at the moment, I pay about $3,000 a semester, and that is studying international studies. So the cost at Korea University is quite expensive compared to some universities. However, you can definitely get away with paying less than that. Further, there's a lot of scholarship opportunities available here, whether from your home government, the Korean government, or via your university. There are a lot of scholarships. For example, for me, there are GPA-based scholarships, need-based scholarships, the government scholarships, and just so many more. Next up is rent. Rent is varied a lot, depending on where you want to stay and what living conditions you expect. At the cheaper end, you have about 300,000 won per month, so about 300 US dollars. 300 US dollars will get you a goshiwon or a dormitory at most universities. A goshiwon is a Korean type of housing, which is essentially like a dormitory but not on campus. So these are basically private dormitories. At a goshiwon you can expect a very small room with a bathroom, possibly a fridge, bed and desk. Not much else. Normally these buildings are 3 or 4 stories and there's probably 30 or 40 apartments in each one. Goshiwons are great for cheap housing, however they do have some limitations, such as a lot of them not allowing visitors, a lot of them don't allow food in the rooms, things like that. However, they're definitely the cheapest and easiest option. So as I mentioned before, you can find them for about 300,000 won per month. They go up to maybe 500,000 or 600,000 won, but if you're going to pay that much for a goshiwon, I would recommend just skipping them completely and moving on up to a one room. So the goshiwons, as I said, are easy. The reason they are so easy is that you don't have to worry about internet, water, anything like that. The money that you pay includes every fee that you have for living except for obviously external things such as food or your phone plan. So every cost related to housing at a goshiwon is covered in that single price. Next up you have one rooms. One rooms can start as cheap as 300,000 per month depending on where you are and what type of one room you expect. However, normally they have a deposit. The deposit can be anywhere from, say, 2 million to 50 million won, so $2,000 to $50,000. Really, you can go as high as you want. I have had 2 one-rooms while I've been here, and both of them have been $3,000 deposits. So the deposit is money that you put in at the start, and at the end, you are pretty much guaranteed to get it back. So when I move out, I get my $3,000 back. The rent will normally go down the higher the deposit is. So say for example you pay a 10 million won deposit, then you might pay 400,000 per month. However, if you pay a 5 million deposit, you might have to pay 500,000 per month. So normally the more you can pay upfront in that lump sum, the cheaper your rent will be, and it will possibly be beneficial depending on the length of your contract. So that's something to keep in mind. One rooms are much better in terms of your freedom and what you can do. Obviously not all of them are the same, but most of them come with a kitchen, a fridge, bed, desk. They normally come fully furnished, and then when you move out, you just leave the furniture here and the next person can move in. Some things to keep in mind though are definitely look for places that have air conditioning. Every house in Korea should have heating, but keep an eye out for air conditioning because summer can be very unpleasant if you don't have it. Normally bottom floor or underground apartments are also cheaper just because of their location and the humidity and stuff that can occur there. There are other types of housing too, however for a student you're probably looking at a one-room goshwon or a dormitory. So all in all, for your monthly housing, you're probably looking at about 300,000 for a goshwon or a lower quality one-room apartment to about 500,000, and anything more than 500,000 will normally net you quite a nice place. Another factor to consider is the location. Depending on where you want to live, the prices will be a lot higher. For me, I was able to get a brand new, perfectly just renovated place, and that was 400,000 per month, so about $400 a month. Compared to New Zealand, where I come from, that's incredibly cheap. However, most people aren't that lucky, and especially if you go to a university in a more popular place such as Yonsei or Iwa, you can expect to probably pay more. However, it's definitely easy enough to find a cheaper place if you shop around and don't mind living maybe 20-30 minutes away. So the next cost that you have to worry about is utilities. Utilities are the 4 costs related to your housing. These include water, electricity, gas, and internet. So internet is sometimes provided. However, if you want good internet, you will definitely have to get it yourself. Internet is less than $50 per month. The absolute best internet from KT at the moment, which is gigabit, will be about 55,000 per month. However, the cheapest internet, which is 100 megabit, is I believe 25,000 per month. Next up you have water. This highly depends on how much water you use. Some places you'll just have a fixed monthly cost, maybe $10, and some places you actually have to pay for your usage. So for me, I pay about $15, 15,000 won, for water every 2 months. So that's about 7,500 won per month. So it's very cheap. Next you have gas and electricity. These are a little bit more complicated. So gas is usually not used except for heating. Korean heating is under the floor and it runs on gas, and also normally your water will also be heated via that gas. So the gas should be on all year if you want hot water. With the gas, you can expect to see costs of about 10,000 won in the warmer seasons. However, once it starts to get colder, you may be going up to 40 or 50,000 won, provided you don't go crazy. If you turn your floor heating up to 50 degrees and you have it on 24/7, you can expect your costs to be a lot higher than that. But if you're conservative, I would say about 30,000 won per month. Electricity is the final utility. So electricity is also very, very cheap, provided you don't use much of it. It's actually an exponentially increasing cost. So if you use X amount of electricity, you might pay 5,000 won. If you use double that electricity, you won't pay 10,000, you'll pay 20,000. If you use double that electricity, you'll pay 100,000. The cost is exponentially increasing to discourage people from using too much electricity. So I will include a link below that shows how much you can expect to pay depending on how much you use. However, normally if you don't use much electricity, probably 10,000 won. The only time that you have to worry is in summer with the air conditioning. Even using air conditioning for 3 or 4 hours a day, the highest cost I've ever had was about 30,000 won. So once again, if you're relatively conservative, electricity shouldn't be too much of a problem for you. So overall, with gas probably being about 10,000 won to 20,000 won, electricity probably being 10,000 to 30,000, just dependent on the seasons, water is about 10,000 won a month, and internet 20 to 50,000, you're looking at paying a little bit less or more than 100,000 a month for all of your utilities combined. The next biggest monthly cost that you'll probably be facing is food. Once again, this is highly dependent on your lifestyle. However, if you go out a lot and eat out a lot, you can expect to find cheap meals for about 3,000 won, and more expensive meals that just go up from there. You can find a very good meal for probably about 6 or 7,000 won. So if you want to eat out once every day, you can expect to probably pay 6 or 7,000 won per meal. If you eat at home, it's very dependent. Some things are very cheap, such as mushrooms or sausages. You can buy heaps for $1, 1,000 won. However, some things are insanely expensive. Like watermelons, I've seen go for upwards of 20,000 won. So if you just eat, things like rice, and you eat rice dishes like kimchi fried rice, it's not very expensive at all to eat at home. Normally, at the moment, I probably spend about $200 to $300 a month on food. That's probably mixed about 70-30, so 70% of the time I eat at home and 30% of the time I eat out. If you want to have fun and go out, have a meal and drink some soju with your friends, you can probably expect to pay about 20,000 won for the whole night. Soju is incredibly cheap, and normally when you divide the price of the dish around with everybody, it's not that bad. Having fun here and drinking soju is actually pretty cheap. However, if you want to eat Western food, things like pasta, or if you want to drink Western alcohol, then you can definitely expect to pay a lot more, so be careful about that. The next cost is transport. Transport is normally about $1, it's 1,250 won per trip. So by per trip, I mean per vehicle. So if you take one bus, it'll be 1,250 won, and then if you take one subway, it'll be another 1,250 won. However, if you hop on a subway straight after the bus, or vice versa, the cost is actually decreased for the second ride. So normally, if you are traveling, say, to university and home every day, you can expect to pay about $2 or $3, maybe about 3 or 4,000 won. It's pretty cheap, and I travel to uni every day of the week. Normally, I take 4 trips, there, back, and that costs me about 120,000 won a month, and that also includes me going to work, which is normally 4 days a week, both ways. So overall, transport is pretty cheap, and you can cut down these costs a lot more if you just live within walking distance of your uni. The next costs to worry about are internet and phone. So I already covered the internet earlier, which I wasn't supposed to, so I won't bother with that. Phone plans. So the cheapest phone plans you can find are about 20 to 30,000 won. However, if you want something like unlimited data, you can look at about 70,000 won. So together, internet and phone, I pay about 100,000 won per month. 70,000 of that is on the phone and 30,000 is on the internet. So with that, you can expect to have all of your costs covered. You have minutes with that, you have texts with that, and for 70,000, you will get unlimited data. If you pay, I believe, 30,000, you get 2 gigabytes, and then 40,000 is 3, and it goes up from there. Finally, there is health insurance. So if you're using international health insurance, I won't bother covering that, but there is also the NHIS, the National Health Insurance in Korea. You are eligible for that once you've been in the country for more than 3 months, and normally that costs about 50,000 per month. So the health insurance will not make any hospital visits free, however, it will automatically be applied every time you go to a doctor or the hospital. So instead of paying, say, 100,000 won, you will go and the cost will only be 20,000 won. So it's super easy, it's automatically deducted, and for about 50,000 won per month, you can have that. It's super easy and super convenient. So the final section is entertainment. So once again, it's hard to talk about entertainment overall because everybody wants to do different things and everybody has different price ranges. However, I did want to cover a few activities and common things to do. So like I said earlier, drinking out or a night out, a normal night out, drinking Korean alcohol, is normally probably only $20 for the whole night. If you want to go to, say, Hongdae, Itaewon, Gangnam, and drink there, you're probably looking at over 50,000 won, maybe to 200,000 won, depending on if you have expensive shots or whatnot. The best Korean pastime when you're drunk is the noraebang, so karaoke, and that's incredibly cheap. You can get 4 songs for 1,000 won, so you can easily spend a few hours there and pay maybe 3 or 4,000 won. It's great if you want to have fun by yourself or with friends. There's also a lot of cool and unique cafes around, such as cat cafes, virtual reality cafes, really any type of cafe that you can think of. Normally these cafes are about 6 to 10,000 won, and for example the cat cafes normally don't have a time limit, so you can go in, pay 6 to 10,000 won, and you get a drink and you can just play with the cats. The VR cafes I've been to, normally you can go to for an hour or two and pay 10,000 won, and overall most of the things here are relatively well priced. Obviously there's a lot more types of entertainment that I could cover, but I mean, I could spend hours here talking about that, so I'm not going to. However, like I said at the start, if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask down below, and I'll be sure to try and answer as best as I can. So that concludes my list of all the costs you can expect to incur as a student studying in Seoul. So I would say on average, most people spend about $800 to $1,200, or 800,000 won to 1.2 million won every month. You can obviously spend a lot more than that, but if you're relatively conservative and keep an eye on how much money you're spending, you can easily get by with probably about $1,000 per month. That's how much I spend per month, and I would say that I live pretty comfortably on that. Just keep in mind that that does not include the tuition cost, because that just varies too much for me to estimate in that cost, and also normally it's a semesterly based cost, so that isn't something I would include in your monthly costs. So I hope that this has proven helpful for some of you, and yeah, if you just have any more information that you want to know, if you're planning on moving to Korea as a student, please feel free to let me know. I actually wrote a blog post on this, and I'll link that down below, and I also did a survey of about 35 people, just students here, asking how much they spend every month, and hopefully that will provide some more insight and you can see what the average costs for everybody studying in Seoul are. I will also include that down below. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you soon.